Whoever invented the sewing machine was a genius. It's a brilliant design. A look at how sewing machines work. We've all seen a sewing machine before. The top needle moves up and down repeatedly, leaving a long stitch in its back. But let's imagine, how did he do it? If hand-sewn, we have to run the needle through the fabric from the top. Then release your hand and regrip the needle underneath. Finally, turn around and retie the fabric upwards. This series of moves, if you let the machine do it, it's almost impossible. And the reason why modern sewing machines can do the same thing, it's because it has 4 breakthrough points. First, redesign the needle. Needles have been around for a long time. They are invariably stylized. They're all pointy, obtuse on the other end, and the threading holes are also on the blunt end. Until 1755, a German inventor named Charles I had the idea of designing a sewing machine. He thinks it's too much trouble to flip the needle twice, so he designed these needles that were sharp at both ends. In this way, during the passage through the fabric, we won't have to flip the needle back and forth. Charles patented this design. Proof. It does speed up the sewing a bit, but what he didn't expect was, this design has been used to this day. All sewing machines have these double-pointed needles. Also, the threading holes have been moved to the bottom. Maybe there's no up and down at this point. We'll differentiate between top and bottom according to sewing habits. But what's the point? If that's the case, when we threaded this needle through the fabric, then pull it out again, the line will follow. So we need to figure out a way. When the thread comes to the other side of the fabric, we're going to make it tangled and knotted to prevent being pulled back out. Have a look at the second breakthrough of the modern sewing machine, winding the thread at the bottom. If we can leave a loop of thread under the fabric, once the needle is out, we'll just move the fabric forward a bit, then move the needle down again, so that it just passes through the previously left behind coils. If this happens, then it creates a little link. If you keep operating in this manner, then a long stitch will form on the fabric. That's why he's called chain stitch. In 1857, 2 inventors, James and Charles, each designed 2 different chain stitch sewing machines. For just the right amount of knotting underneath the fabric, Charles's design utilizes hooks. Attention! Here's the point. Needle through fabric, and drive the branch line downward, passing through the coil. Then the needle moves up. Shorter distance between the threading hole and the fabric. The original long coil is forced to bend. Forms an elliptical coil with a slight outward projection. Right now, a side hook quickly passes through this oval coil and stretch it downwards. When the needle returns, hooks move backward. At this point, the needle drops right down to the coil position and passes through it, and then move all the way down. When it goes up again, the distance between the threading hole and the fabric is once again smaller. Long coils are again extruded into elliptical coils. The hooks have caught it again and turn it into the same long coil as before, so that the needle goes through it repeatedly. Take a look at the continuum. James' design is somewhat similar, but his hooks are spinning. So when the needle drops, hook rotated just enough to hook the coil, and then rotate half a turn. The coil that was just hooked up is released, and so on. Isn't it subtle? Indeed, the wisdom of mankind is evident at this moment. But there is also a flaw in this chainmail stitch. If the stitches come loose somewhere, we can easily pull out all the lines. In other words, the chain is not strong enough. Moving on to the third breakthrough in modern sewing machines, reinforcement of stitches. To create a reinforced effect, we need 2 strands of wire, lit, 1 blue, 1 yellow. The yellow bobbin we call the bobbin. As the needle descends through the fabric, the bobbin will go straight through the blue coil, as this process creates cross. So when the needle returns to go, the 2 strands will get tangled and knotted, like this. The stitch formed in this way is known as a lock stitch, due to its exceptionally strong. So there are still a lot of similar machines working today. Most of them are upwards of 100 years old. At this stage, there's still one problem that hasn't been solved. That's how the fabric moves. Well, finally, a look at the 4th breakthrough in modern sewing machines, automatic fabric movement. In order to solve this problem, many inventors have tried hard to, but the results are mostly not very good. The best is still this design called Wilson. There's a metal block that looks like a scrubber underneath the fabric. When the needle leaves the fabric, the metal block then squeezes the fabric from the bottom up. For reasons of great friction, the metal block will move the fabric back a short distance. Make it to the next stitch. This design is still in use today. Almost all sewing machines. It's all about this mobile mechanism.